Sorry, guys, I'm not always consistent, but I have pre-pulled some cards just because I make some of the readings a little bit longer and I don't want to drag out too long. Otherwise, I don't get to all of them. And of course, I generally just tend to focus on a couple of them here. So what we're going to start out with is kind of where you're at coming in. I'll give you a synopsis. We'll go through some of the cards individually. I have pulled clarifiers below here as well to give you an idea of what we're looking at. But overall, in the month of July, still a lot of processing in around the heart space for sure. Definitely still making progress. There's still a lot to overcome here, but you are very much on a healing journey. You're very much on a healing path. Um, of course, the fact that you're at the tens right now is an indicator that this is the end residual of the situation. So you're really kind of just closing the chapter, getting rid of all of the stale energy basically in your life, and really trying to focus on the new. So, in other words, you're trying to integrate the lessons. How do you accept something so that you can move forward? But either way, the Ten of Swords in its, and again, I'll just start doing the general meaning of the cards and then we'll go into the clarifiers and tie it all there. So for those of you who don't know, follow my channel, how I operate is, again, I'll read the main cards out, get the general feel of it, tie it all together. Your all timelines, take it as it resonates. It may or may not be your story. Check back if it is not. So I do see a lot of cards here, as I said, that speak to healing. So starting out with it, of course, is an indication that you're going through some kind of a transition to a cycle. 10 is, of course, the end of that cycle. So there is some kind of mastery, meaning you have learned some kind of lessons, or you have adapted, or you have made some kind of created some kind of acceptance around some very meaningful situations to you that have been heartbreaking. This is a card of betrayal. It certainly does indicate that it is something that you're having to prepare for, but it's taken skin off of you, so to speak. In other words, it's been a situation where you really haven't felt gained out of it. And a lot of times, some of the pains that we go through are not something that it doesn't mean it's right or wrong. Pain is really just an indicator that you are going through something that you never knew necessarily would be a hot spot for you. And so it helps you to lessen the triggers further out once you take in and learn a lesson. The fact that this is sitting, and again, swords are all about sort of dealing with the mental aspects of things, indicate that you are still in that space of really dealing with a lot of cerebral energy, meaning you're going to be quite burned out, I would say, at this point with all of the I see here. This is the main card out, but as I said, a Ten of Swords does indicate could have been some level of betrayal, something in around trust issues, could even be dealing with losses or change, but either way, it's like a final resolution card, and it's sort of the dramatic end to that cycle. So again, it's now that you're getting ready to move into this new space. Even if it's not all of it, it is certainly a section or a part of it that you have worked through, and you are now getting ready to move on to the true purpose of your life. So this is almost the energy just prior to feeling relief and accepting the inevitable and then moving on. So again, it's the loss seems worse because it's obviously something that was more unexpected. It ended where you felt that you could count on some, and it didn't feel as though you could. And again, whether it was right or wrong, the whole point is here is that you're kind of finding a way to move forward beyond this. And again, if someone has hurt you very badly in this situation, this is where you're starting to get beyond it. Now, the energies that follow, as I said, we'll go into here as well, because the death card is definitely deep transition, deep, deep, deep transition with this. But it does feel like it has been a relationship or a connection that was very important to you, where you've had some kind of concern or issue. Now, there is also the Four of Wands that's coming out here. That is a happy card. Now that does indicate it could be around a family front, or certainly around something that represents as family or stability or whatever to you, but it is some here of a more positive card. Fours are all about foundations, discipline, and certainly stability. So there's something here about you forward in that area to creating some kind of planned foundation to move something ahead. The fact that it is a Four of Wands, and again, this is the main energy node. It's not a major arcana, but it does still speak to you getting ready for some good news. And it does feel like you're more grounded in the energy that you are presenting in the month of July. So for some of you, this can look like it is, and again, this won't be for all of you, but there are different variations. You're all, coming to this at different stages. So, and all on different timelines. You don't all make a decision on a Monday or a Friday or whatever. But with the Four of Wands, this is also something that can be you preparing for a committed relationship, whether to yourself or to another. But there has been disappointment around that connection for sure. And we'll go into all of that as well. But your Cancer energy is also out here. There is more of a maturity that's coming out in the card here as well. But I do feel like this is almost like a passage of time or some kind of, again, event here as well with the Four of Wands that is helping you to move on. But again, it's like a significant milestone that you're moving through. The fact Four of Wands again is here with minor arcana. It just feels like you're still in that stage of something around the home front or around again your stability. You're starting to feel more safe and secure and able to move forward. So this is either reunions. This can also be family or friends. But because I pulled some other cards around family and friends that weren't speaking to connection just yet, I want to say that that would be for not in the month of July, because you're just doing so much soulful individual tempering yourself that it doesn't feel like you're ready to kind of engage in a significant way that way. But I do still feel this is a milestone event for you, like you're actually moving through something, and it's going to bring you about to a space of feeling like you can take control more of your life and steer action that feels most productive for you. But again, you're in a space of trying to get away from easily triggered moments, and try to balance your energy out. And that's what I see happening there. And not only from Four of Wands here, but we also have the card of the Hermit. And of course, that's very deep energy. And of course, I've got the clarifiers. We'll go through that. It's very slow moving energy below that, though. So to me, that Hermit does speak to this is going to be a longer journey for you to get through. That is the major arcana out, though. And there is the star card as well as the major arcana. Further out, there's the lover, so there's a connection there as well. But the fact that we are looking at the hermit is an indicator that this is kind of a soulful individual process that you're working through. It is a 9, and that definitely indicates you're very close to a finish line here as well. So again, there's a lot that's not everything is completing and everything is healed. What it is saying is there's a part of your life where there has been some betrayal, and that seems to be something you're moving forward beyond. So I feel like you're taking distance from others to kind of, work through or grow into yourself here. But I definitely feel like, you're kind of I think there was the Seven of Cups that came up there too, which would be an indicator of kind of losing yourself into your own thoughts. But there's also with the nines, again, you're searching for truths. You're trying to find answers here, to heal yourself. And I do feel like with the Hermit card again, this is dealing with spiritual matters. This is dealing with physical matters. However it speaks to you, it is going to be a tying up of loose ends, so and finishing up something here. So it would speak to me like of a crossroads kind of energy, but it's a very slow methodical energy here, and able to get those answers. So you are being very methodical in the way that you really pierce through these dark, sort of spaces. You are really looking for wisdom, deeper wisdom, something that you can actually, go on forward and teach others, or that you would be able to have some sense of understanding with another person. So it would be the ability to teach or to enlighten others, because it's, going from the student to more teaching kind of energy. This isn't just looking to resolve an issue. This is actually wanting the wisdom to know that you've come so far, and now you can implement that further out. So it would be again coming out of the dark. It's a soul searching card, and I would say that it's a spiritually seeking. You're spiritually seeking at this point in July. And I feel like that inner focus moments, that I'm seeing here, because there's so much here that kind of speaks to that, even with the star energy. The star energy is all about, the healing qualities. Again, it's a major arcana. So star is also going to be, it's too heavy an energy to just say it's wrapping up in a 4-week period. But I feel like you are concluding some of your answers in this period, like you're actually going to be able to use that information later in life. So you have reached some, there is some emphasis on those answers coming in. So, like I said, the star is also a major arcana. It does speak to renewal, it does speak to healing. It definitely is about a new cycle, it's persistence. You've got a lot of cards of 9. And it does feel like you're on the right track. And you are going to develop more of a positive outlook with this. And I do feel like that's going to be bringing you more synchronicities that you'll be able to start to look through. Hi, sorry, Luna. Hi there. Thank you for joining, guys. And Yaman. But sorry if I mispronounced that, by the way. But yeah, either way, I just feel like there's something more promising on the horizon here for you, because just way too much soul searching. And right below that, of course, is the Three of Wands. And even though I'm going to go through that later, that still speaks to a lot of really good energy of moving forward and seeing where you're headed. Now, I want to say that. Okay, the card that came out is, and again, I did ask some of these cards as more specific to. Sorry, I was just reading. I'm in. Yep, it's live. Yeah, it is a one. And so I do see that with the Hierophant, you're really focusing on your connections or those deeper connections. So it's not everybody in your life that's important, certainly the ones that you are more reliant on in terms of stability. Hierophant is a card of institutions, can be workplace, can be spirituality. And for some of you, this may certainly kind of cross all of those levels, but I definitely feel like this is something here that you're working through that has to do with a higher power or has to do with a higher quality of engagement. So again, it certainly does speak to there being something of significant tradition involved. It definitely feels like there's a systems kind of feel as well. That's what the card is also indicative of. But overall, I feel like the energy is you trying to stabilize. Everything here speaks to me about healing and stabilizing. The Hierophant, like I said, is also the card that can be a significant connection for, again, for some of you, this might be more specific to one connection, but I get a broader feel than that. So I want to say that with the Hierophant, this is along that lines of, also can be dealing with professional aspects. Hi, Sass. Okay, well, oh my gosh. Wicked people think wicked thoughts. Let's put it that way. I know there's very strong religious elements here, and I am no different. I do believe in, my a version of God. No, not Beelzebub and whatever else. I mean, that's childlike to me, actually. I believe in, I'd like to believe in the good of humanity, that people don't judge each other so that they can feel, that they're above the other. I think the whole point is to try to help one another. And if we're too busy judging and speaking to ourselves being of higher quality than our fellow man, what does that say? What does that say about you? Right? Anyway, okay, so going back to the Hierophant, sorry, I was just responding to some of the comment there. Anyway, and again, sometimes, I'll even throw this out there, sometimes good people do bad people do good things. It's really more along the lines of, who are you at the end of the day? Your intention is really what matters. So try to focus on the things that will better yourself and better the world, and, things will carry on in a better way, so that we all don't have to try to watch our neighbor and be preoccupied by that. But anyway, okay, so getting back into the reading here. So anyway, moving on to the Hierophant. So again, this is all about that message of dealing with a lot of stability and a lot of down-to-earth strategies here. So I feel like you're almost having to come home to sort of deal with the situation. Andrea, good to see you again. Aw, thank you so much for that. I really do appreciate that. Yeah, I don't consider myself somebody who's out there to destroy on the world. I just feel like it's a very hard place for a lot of people, especially at this time. And I think that, every little tool we can help each other with is, one more day that that could be a better day. Okay, so I was just reading Sass, Deep Kundalini Satan. Well, I don't really believe in a Satan, so that's why I say, I will say that there's negative energies out there. As when our, I don't know, what my belief is, it's sort of a lower vibration. You leave yourself vulnerable to something, then, certainly that negative energy, who knows, it could be another spirit that to relive again and comes through you. You know what I mean? Like, we don't know. There's not going to be any absolutes, but I definitely feel like there is something that we can all tap into and help one another. Um, but either way, when we get to the Hierophant, so there is something here again that speaks to, more of a traditional organized way of dealing with things. So I feel like this is where your success will be in this month, and not to compromise your integrity. And certainly when it's coupled with the Moon card, I feel like there could be some moodiness back and forth, like completely feeling, you're certainly more in a more positive base though with the Ten of Cups, but it definitely feels like it's more along your stability and family front, or things that you consider to be family as your main focus this month. Now, we all have some other cards here. The Two of Swords is you being at a crossroads or an indecision or not really sure where you want to go with something, but I do feel like you are making some kind of decision in this month. It feels like it's a bit of a gridlock, sort of, like it's almost like there's a bit of a stagnancy, but not in a bad way. And what I mean by that is that stagnancy is kind of bringing you to a purposeful pause. Whatever it is that you're processing is helping you to move through, but it is certainly around partnerships or making some kind of a choice here. Again, Two of Swords is its decisions for sure, and it is sort of dealing with the of your mind that you feel gridlocked or stuck, so it is an indicator that you are in that space of considering what path to take. So there may be a level of procrastination here, but there's also something here about taking that time out, and it's a bit of a truce, and it's for a good reason, because the Empress is below this. So there is something here you're moving into that will be much more fortuitous, much more advantageous to you, and I do feel like you are it's not immobilized, it's like I said, it's a poignant pause. It's something that you need to do, and that's able to get to the Empress, and the Empress is further out. And again, some of you might get to that energy in July, but it is a 3 and it is a forward moving card. So again, that tells me this could be dealing around a mother figure that you're trying to make a decision about as well, or that there's a bit of an impasse right now. But it feels like something will blossom, something will re-inspire you, something will re-engage you in some way, and you're just on the precipice of that. So it looks like you're going through a lot of different things here that's dealing around your family front, or your things that deal with your stability. And it feels like you're at that end space of that, but you're about to move into something that's going to be more emotionally satisfying. Again, some of you might work through this energy a little faster in July, others it might be just a little further out, but you're still doing the work, is what I would say here. We get to the cards of the Lovers. And again, some of the questions that I asked around these are around your connections and what are the obstacles and what are the things that are coming through that are more, that you're actually gaining some, headway on. So we'll kind of clarify that. But again, just for the moment, we're going to stay with the Lovers card. This again can be about a decision, but it would be around a partnership or a connection, very strongly correlated, especially with the other cards that came out. The Lovers card can be also dealing with the Gemini energy here. Of course, I did see the Cancer energy. This is a 6, so it is more of a balanced card, and I definitely feel like you were in that space of really trying to figure out a way to be more cooperative. I think that you are still in that space of making the decision about how to re-engage in some way. And this could be that there's a new relationship on the forefront here, but it still to me is a bit of a pause. It's still stuck. It's on hold. You're still in that place of making a decision. It's the cards that follow here. And again, we'll go through more of those in more detail. But for me, it feels like you've got yourself separated from the connections at this time, although you're certainly thinking a lot about it. But again, it feels like you're facing a decision. Too many cards that came up about that. Oh, thanks, Andrea. um, so, um, sorry, I was just reading the. No, actually. Alrighty, so we're going to go right into the actual read itself and see where things kind of take us. And I'll also pull some other cards a little further out, which will be from the Angel Guide. And if we've got enough time, unless my phone dies out, but we'll see how it goes. All right, so we'll start out with, again, that Ten of Swords energy. There we are. Like I said, I feel somewhere around that week 1, and again, some of you, it's going to be a little bit gray area on the time frame, but just roughly, just from given the type of the card time frame of the cards, I feel like the Ten of Swords and then having that follow with the Death card, deep transition cards here. Again, that kind of speaks to a major ending, but with a major ending comes a release. So it's almost like you're in that space of, I finally get to feel less burdened. So even if you are burnt out, it's like something, you let go of something. And it's like maybe you did hit a rock bottom to get there, but it is also where the big transformation has occurred. And that's where I feel like you're at. As soon as that first week sort of hits, that's kind of your energy. And it's like, this is the end. This is the turning point to create the new beginning. And I feel like this is where you are. You're reframing something in your life. You're reframing it so that you can transition around it. And again, not only is it showing the Judgment card and that you're ready for the whole new start, like they just are a perfect sequence of cards. So again, in that second week, I feel like with the Judgment card, you are experiencing that awakening. You're finally reaching your epiphany moment. This is where you start to see clearly. You're rising above your problems, or in some areas of your problems. And I feel like you're ready for this fresh start, like you're re-engaging in some way with the Fool card here. So this is, a new journey. This is that you're feeling a lot more inspired. And again, you made the decision. So this is a little further out. These are the clarifiers. But how I pulled the cards was the main one was out as the Ten of Swords with the Death card, and then the Judgments. And then that was followed up by the Fool. So this is the main cards that you have out here is Hermit, Star, Hierophant, Judgment, and Lovers. Big cards for decision making in this month for you. So I do feel like July is the turn point for everything, or a lot of the bigger stuff that you've been dealing with. Like I said, I still feel like your challenge is in this month is primarily your self-critical thoughts, and if you can identify them and examine the evidence and replace it with empowering truths, is it true all of the time? Is it true in this moment? Is it true? Has it always been true? If you know that you see some gray areas, inconsistencies, and you can go forward and get past it, because just because something is going on for, let's say, 4 or 6 months and it's been heavy and negative, doesn't mean it was that way. And that's the things we need to identify is the catastrophic thinking. Am I putting all of, is it all or nothing thinking? Am I placing everything on this one decision or this one thought pattern and making it my identity? Because our pains are not our identity. It's what we're meant to work through to process to become better on the other side and stronger. So again, visualize yourself stepping into that new future. See it for what it is. See yourself engaging, seeing yourself. It's like they say with sports events, a lot of, let's say, basketball player, whatever, they'll pre-vision what it is that they want to happen. And then it actually gives them the extra edge to make something happen because the muscle memory is there, to re-engage with the activity. It's already been done before, but now this to the next level. Pre-visualize it happening positively, and then it helps to kind of move things into the direction that you need. Now the other part is it's you're feeling much more encouraged. Like after you reach this epiphany, after you make this big release, and then you feel like, okay, I give up. You're not surrendering to, not being able to do something. You're surrendering to, I can control all the events in my life, and therefore I surrender to the will of the universe, to the things that I can't control in this moment. But I will still move forward with that Fool card and see and prevision what it is that I want from myself. And this is where you'll be able to imagine walking through the door, and it's freedom. Okay, now getting into the next set of cards, the Four of Wands. So the Four of Wands, again, that is the card of, as I said, it's like a stability card here. And again, this is where your focus is. It does feel like you are anchoring yourself in family or in home. There could be a celebration of some sort here in the month of July, but it's also more of a sense of If there is a celebration, I would say you're still feeling emotionally flat, not really emotionally engaging yet. It does feel like there's still a level of satisfaction around the home front, but again, at least there's still something more forward thinking and trying to find that stability. So that's where you can start to think about, practicing journaling or gratitude, or this is what's good in my life, or this was what was good in my life, and I can get back to that, or can improve on that, or I can see myself in the future looking in a better direction that will help me to build my skills or build my sense of self or whatever. Know that every step that you take in a small step is all you need to get there, one step at a time. So again, it still feels like you're emotionally flat, maybe not feeling, incredibly supported at this time. But I definitely feel like you're anchoring yourself so that you can start to feel happier. Still processing. King of Cups is a mature energy, someone who gets to the other side, someone who starts to master their emotions, understand their emotions. It's not conquering your emotions, it's working with your emotions. And when I say working with your emotions, it's more along the lines of, I realize that life is acceptance of, again, the things that you can't control. It's an acceptance of, people, everybody needs their time to grow. It's an acceptance that there's more responsibilities that you have to take on that you maybe weren't ready for, or you weren't expecting what you expected. But it's also accepting that it's okay to let that, to have not been prepared for it, right? So, because the point is it's how do you state your need, what it is that you want, how do you maintain calm and composure, which is what the King of Cups is, how do you avoid being passive aggressive, taking it out in some other negative way, and actually, understand that it's okay to have some boundaries to while you're working through these things so that you're not feeling challenged at every moment that you're triggered. Okay, anyway, now we're into, and actually, just as a side note too, sometimes, kind of visualizing yourself in your happy place. Some people put it on a tattoo, some people look at a picture, some people, have a space in nature or somewhere that gives them their happy spot. And for me, it's driving. So I enjoy driving, but for others, it's visualizing yourself in or as a grounded oak, or as a person that you feel, meets the calm in the storm. And again, when you think about the trees, they really are anchors. They were here before mankind. The trees have, those rings for a reason. They fed the roots to the smaller trees. And again, even when you sort of break that down, sometimes the small wane off into the, to expand and grow, but they weren't anchored enough in and with a strong enough root to be able to hold on. And weather the storms. They were only able to, deal with the immediate. It's important to get those roots, is what I'm saying. That's how those trees, the big trees, weather the big storms, because they have good roots. The trees that take off and tower really high, but don't have a good sense of themselves, or don't have a good sense of self-esteem, or don't have good root foundation. Like I said, if you don't have enough to springboard from, finances or otherwise, it can leave you in a really bad spot. So anyway, roots are important. Anyway, back in. Okay, so this is end of July, I would say, especially too, because we had, you are resistant here with the Seven of Wands and with the Emperor, and this is you holding your own. I really feel like you're moving into a mature energy. This is more along the lines of, I am in control or disciplined in my mindset. I am more willing to finish the month in a structured way. And I do feel like this is inner time. Again, it's time for solitude. It's time for reflection. Wisdom of the Hermit. All of that is a big part of this. Now, we also have the cards out here with, sorry, just trying to get the other ones here, guys. There it was. Okay, so we also had, going back, Hermit energy here. So the Hermit is also sort of speaking to, as I mentioned, a lot of inner work. So because I feel like this is a very strong spiritual reconnection for you this month. It also indicates that you're doing it in a very, fastidious way. Like you're still through it, but you're doing it very slow, methodical, and steady and responsible. You're focusing on your goals. You're focusing on your practical goals. That's what the Knight of Pentacles is. It's the practical world. It's, do I have a job in place, or how do I invest my money, or how do I, present as a more stable individual? What are the qualities? What are the traits? It's things along that line, and taking more responsibility for yourself, your actions, your thoughts, being your own best friend, being someone that you could count on. Because if you can count on yourself, then, the rest of the world can't really shake you. When we get to the Magician in here, this is still things kind of processing. You've got all the tools, you've got all the qualities. You just need to really implement them and grow them and expand them. This is also kind of speaking to, like I said, the Ten of Swords that had come out here with all of that. As the overall summary for July, I would say that you do have a lot of new beginnings. It's a major, and certainly there is a rebirth of some sort, but it's not a mild one. It's a really strong awakening of, I have to let everything go that is no longer that I identify with. It's like a cutting of finishing up all of this cycle, but tying up the loose ends. It's like, this is who I was. This is all the stuff that I have to do to rid myself of the problematic aspects, and this is how I can correct or self-correct. So there's something here, like I said, of, if there is a celebration coming in for some of you, I would say that it is kind of a mild emotional dissatisfaction. So I wouldn't say that you're, strongly engaged in it. But I definitely feel like it is still something that speaks to steady, disciplined progress overall. And like I said, deep reflection is the overall message. So remember, in the month of the advice, the best advice, and that was because I pulled out the Eight of Wands here. The best advice for this period seems to be that, you are anxious to get moving on something. You're really strategizing. There's a lot of quick movement that's going through now with that Five of Cups, and there's a lot of nostalgia. You're really processing that a lot faster, even though it's still slow, steady progress. But the aspect around childhood or around the past or give and take, whatever that was here, for a lot of you, is being reframed. So that is where you're saying, if I've lost everything, I'm going to look at that now as I'm clearing the way to create something new. It's something where you're starting to not identify with the negativity or the negative things or negative automatic thoughts, because they say for every negative thought you have, you need to have like something like 20 positive thoughts to eradicate a negative thought. So if we think about all the negative thoughts we have in a day, you're probably building, a negative mindset and a future with that same. So even if you were moving into something positive, you wouldn't recognize it because you're too busy thinking negative and sad, and so you couldn't identify something that was positive that's around you. But either way, I evaluate that evidence for and against your thoughts, negative and positive. When it's a negative mindset, especially if it's self-esteem related, I'll fail again, that kind of thing. That's that you're identifying it to be a part of your character. Really, just, it's not true. Our character is something that's built over time, and it's built through the experiences that we go through. So the fact that we failed at 2 or 5 or 6 or 12 things is not a big deal, because a lot of people that have been quite successful in their life have had to fail multiple times and able to become the successes that they are. And that, I'm not just speaking monetarily, because it takes a lot of rebalancing your beliefs and replacing it with, I've failed before, to, I have succeeded in my life at certain times, and I will try again, and I can try again. I mean, did it shake you? Yes. Did it change you? Yes. Are you down for the count? No, but it might feel like it in a moment. So now, again, this is something about, Seven of Swords, like I said, that is that card of feeling a little bit pressed. But I would say, because the Seven of Swords is next to the Eight of Wands, it's almost like you're kind of, I don't want to say disengaging exactly, but because it's a hidden card, it's a hiding of things. But it's also something that kind of speaks to, like, where there could be a lot of mental things that you're hiding at this time, is what I would say. And I mean, your thoughts are not, there's a lot of hermit energy there, like I said, but it feels like you've kind of disengaged in some way. Seven of Swords. So I just feel like it's because you are trying to figure out, something of something that you have to negotiate with yourself with, maybe possibly something on that line. But it's still a planning card, and it definitely still speaks to, you kind of going through a transition, but you're trying to negotiate something here. But again, you're kind of guarded, and certainly there could be underhanded people around you, or you could be pulling back from people, like I said, which is strongly correlated with all the other cards, as I said. But I just don't feel, I feel like there's trust issues for sure, conflicted feelings, that kind of thing. Very overactive mind, a lot of independent energy, especially with the Cups. It just feels like you almost need to commit to doing some consistent actions to be positive, moving it toward goals in small ways rather than overwhelming yourself with big choices. But I do feel like July is like a gateway month, and certainly it does feel like, again, you're re-emerging as someone different. You're a freer version is being reborn here, and I feel like it's okay to embrace the ending of the things that were. It's not to say they won't come around again. It just means at this point you need to let go of those things so you can focus on the new journey. And there's something here about walking forward, like with one step at a time, especially with that Knight of Pentacles. Now, I feel like there's been disappointment, like I said, in those connections, very strongly coming out here in a lot of ways here. So I definitely feel like grounding is very important to you in this month. And overall, I would still say, whatever the betrayal is or whatever those painful moments are, again, it's a reopening for renewal. And if you visualize the outcome that you want, you won't be up against the pain of the wall, right? So if you observe it calmly and separate yourself from this old version of yourself to the new, I feel like you're going to, because that's challenging your limiting beliefs. I feel like if you reframed, if I couldn't fail, what would I do? What direction would I move in? It's stepping forward, like I said. When you start to feel more free, it's easier to make a decision or make choices and choose that new beginning. So again, the Four of Wands was still our strong card out here, which indicated that we've got a lot of, there's still a lot of cards here that indicate steady and success and control and discipline, tradition and maturing emotionally. Very, very strong, especially in July period. So again, every time you sort of hit that Four of Cups, this is where you want to say to yourself, always have a go-to positive thing that you can do that distracts you. Either get out into nature, reframe the thought, write it as pros and cons, to thinking that way. But either way, emotionally you feel disconnected or dissatisfied, bored, or you're feeling like you're unable to enjoy the things around you. And so once you identify that negative thought that nothing makes me happy, that's when you start saying, well, what small can I do in the moment that will give me peace? What small thing can I find gratitude in? Can I shift my body into doing a small walk or doing a small activity? Or can I do something that is going to re-engage me with the world or build a skill? So either way, it's a card of being aware of your state of mind and knowing that if you visualize yourself in the very near distant future or whatever it is for you, that you will be able to pull yourself out of that. So again, we still have the card of the Seven of Wands, defensive position. So I feel like you're standing up for yourself, and I do feel like you may be tested in this period, of course, but it's mostly you on you, I would say. But I feel like a lot of you could be feeling tested, from mixed pressures here as well. But I feel like you're taking it in stride. This is a very disciplined energy. And again, it's staying in that communication, that assertive communication that I see here. So it's like you're visualizing yourself as the Emperor, as the King of Cups, as somebody who's mature. You're making sure your body language is appropriate. That's what I see. It's like you're making sure you're calm, you remain calm in your tone. It's things of that sort. And again, I feel like the gains in this month for you through structure, it will be through discipline. It will be you leading your life in a way. And that is what I see here: mature, structured energy, and stable. So I feel like you're laying those foundations this month. You're really putting some overall effort into it. Now, the one part I would say, because I did ask what it is that you were overcoming this month, and the cards that came up would be the thing that you're overcoming this month was the Star and the Three of Wands. So that tells me that you are overcoming some level of hopelessness, some level of despair, some level of lack of faith in the future. And that tells me that you are learning to believe again in healing. You are starting to have your dreams or a spiritual renewal. And that, again, is after a period of darkness. And it was sort of, rooted in a lot of isolated energy. And of course, with the Three of Wands, that's moving forward. Three is creativity. It's expanding something. It's growing something. So there's no more stagnation. There's no more delay. You have, this is what you're overcoming in this period. And I'm not, again, because this is such big, heavy energy, I'm not going to say it's all in the month of July, but a lot of start here is relevant now. And again, it speaks to, feeling the dreams again. It's that, ability to see a future vision. And it also kind of speaks to trusting that your efforts, what you put your time and energy into, will pay off. So it's things like that where you're moving from passivity and inability and, feeling like you're not able to move to more expectant action, that you can move forward. Now, again, with the only thing I will sort of say that might be a guard in this period is the card of, now we did have the Hierophant, we did have the Emperor. So something here about you overcoming rigid belief systems. And I think that was where you're getting stuck. Because the Hierophant also talks about, and again, what you're overcoming is, the rigid belief systems, the outdated traditions, how you think everything should look, how, what age you figure you should have completed something at or should be in your life at this time. Like you're letting that go in lieu of, because that is helping you to break away from those restrictive energies and that pressure to conform, and opening yourself up to more, just a newer, like there's no more resistance to learning. I feel like you're more open to learning. You're more open to this new wisdom. You're more open to insight. Now, I also want to say that this is because the overall interpretation, again, with the Star card, and the Three of Wands and the Hierophant and all of that combination, it still tells me that you're overcoming that loss of hope, that loss of, faith in the world or faith in self, and your short-sightedness. You're over that short-sightedness and feeling stuck with the Three of Wands. And again, you're overcoming that rigidity in your belief systems about how things should look. And you're overcoming guilt. You're overcoming oppressive expectations. And again, this could be coming in from traditional systems. You're overcoming all of that. So that's a really heavy energy. That's a really big thing to process. And again, I just feel like overall beginning to see the possibility and the healing that where you once saw despair. That's what the Star is all about. So this is where you liberate yourself. You can actually plan and act toward a meaningful future. And I just, as I said, I feel like you have more deeper meaning attached to it as well. And you've got spiritual integrity. So it's, maybe diving into a lot more spirituality in this month as well with that Hierophant card. But it's like you're re-engaging with more of that in somehow it's affecting or impacting your overall ideas. So it means that there is a more balanced perspective, So there's always possibilities that you haven't considered. And that is where I see things. Rigidness is what you're overcoming. So I feel like you've replaced that, or you will be replacing that with more of a balanced perspective, like there's always a possibility that I haven't considered yet. So, it's opening the door a bit and visualizing a new open space. So freedom, you want to feel the freedom again to create and envision the future. And of course, maybe even rethinking your belief systems on things. Now, the other part of it is your triggers again and what you're processing. There is also at the bottom of the deck, I had the Moon card. Sorry, I just forgot what pile I put it into. The bottom of the deck was the Moon card. I don't know if I showed you that one yet, but so guys, I thought I had a little more organized there. Oh, did I put that back? Okay, well, Oh, there it is. Okay. So the moon card, like I said, this is also that energy of, not seeing all the light, not really seeing all the possibilities. Still, the stuff is buried below. But again, you're still overcoming with the star card, and this is more of a clarifying energy. Not so it's you being able to heal, have faith in your dreams again, you're reclaiming hope. That's what I'm going to say. And you are planning for you can trust in, or what you feel you can trust in for the future. This was the bottom of the deck, so I guess I should say that this is really more of an overriding energy, the whole of the read. So it is dealing with but you're overcoming it. So you're still dealing with overcoming those deeper fears, the illusions, confusion. Emotionally clouded energy is what happens with the moon. And again, it's where you're haunted by the past, or feel haunted by your fears or your traumas, and it's self-sabotage energy. It's all of that. And so by virtue of that, you avoid certain circumstances because you have created a cycle of avoidance with the card. And that could be in around family, that could be in around things that, would otherwise bring you happiness. But below this, and that's the important, beneath this is where you have a true desire to be emotionally fulfilled. And this family harmony, this is lasting peace. This is the core motivation, is love, happiness. This is what you're motivated by. And by virtue of that, your fears block your path to it, but you're overcoming that confusion, that despair, that rigidness, that, rigid belief set. It's also realigning you with, your need to feel connected again. So it's like this is where your decision making is occurring, is in this month of July. You're looking to align with your deepest connections for emotional security and love and all of those things. So again, just to recap, your July summary, again, would be more along the lines of you overcoming hopelessness, you overcoming despair, working through those rigid ideals. You're moving toward emotional fulfillment, peace, and loving connections, especially because you long for that with the Ten of Cups. So you're making a decision about that. Sorry, guys, I'm just sort of out and about. But again, even with that moon card, this is where you peel back the layers, of fear. And again, it's all the stuff that we condition ourselves, or the society's conditioned to believe, that we can't achieve, or there's too many barriers, or there's too much whatever. The thing is you can always find a way, or you can find people, or, to make things a little bit easier. And again, that's why it's so important to sort of support each other, get back to a level of peace, because you are in that space of wanting to create safety around you and happiness. And that is changing how you see and act in the world. Sorry, guys. Fire truck. Maybe that's the message right there. But it does indicate that, again, you're still coming out of the fog, and you're going to start to find a little bit more now of that peace and relief and lightness. And you are in that space of choosing hope, love, clarity. So overall, again, with the Magician energy at the bottom of the deck there, and I had that earlier, that all spoke to, I feel like you're in that space of, again, finding a lighter version of yourself, willing to learn more. You're more open to learning. You're more open to information. Feel like you're starting to take the first step here. You're visualizing what you want, and not just in terms of goals for career. It could be around spirituality. It could be again, it could be deciding on what it is that is important to you. How do you work up to it incrementally? But either way, you're replacing the things of I can't change to I have changed before and I can again. It's reframing everything. So like I said, I just feel like you've got a mix of emotional satisfaction, or not feeling motivated, but at the same time, there's some levels of blessings coming in this month for you in July. Not only is it the epiphany moments, but it's also you finding a little bit more spiritual and lighter, because you're able to shift your focus from a lack to being in the present. You're kind of, and you can also anchor yourself by, when you hold your fingers, I think it's these two fingers that they hold together, the little finger, by touching the thumb and the middle finger, or but anyway, that's just you happy. That's when you can actually recall a moment of happiness. That's what they use in NLP. So just as a side note, if in case you're interested in that kind of thing. But again, like I said, a lot of sports people with basketball and hockey and all of those things, they do pre-visualize what it is that they want from themselves, in certain areas or an action before they do it, and that helps to lay down the foundation so that it's more of a success. So I think that's kind of your takeaway there for this month, because there's a lot of, you're working through those darker energies, but you also have the Ten of Cups out here. And again, they may be just the clarifier, but you're in a good space, because you are now starting to see that you can work through the. Nothing is permanent. It's only permanent if you choose to think permanently, in one way. But, we're always changing our mindsets every day, hour. If something makes you laugh in that moment, you're laughing. It's not, it's heavy. And it's not to say that you won't have problems. The problems are always going to be there, but it's more about, let's look for solutions versus attaching our identity to the problem. Because our identity is always changing. So the problem shouldn't define you when there's so many problems out there. You couldn't possibly put every problem on you and say, I'm limited. I mean, I guess you could, but I mean, the overall message here is, you're creating your life. And so to create your life, it's expand by virtue of you taking another step. So again, July to me is an ego death. It's a spiritual kind of rebirth of some sort. You are emotionally integrating and doing a lot of reflection. You're working through your lessons. You're trying to step up into what is important to you, and you're really going to make it happen for you. So I feel like you are starting to create what you want because you're aligning energy to it. You're pre-visualizing it, and I think that is going to be the big takeaway from everything here. Again, you have the Two of Swords with the Empress. So again, could be mother figure where you're still in a mode of thinking about something here, but unwilling to make a choice maybe. But it's mentally blocking out what you don't want to see as well. So again, there's so much here that to unpack that this has to go further than just this month. But you have so many cards of this is really positive energy. This is receiving that abundance. You just have to allow yourself to receive that abundance or to receive that feminine energy, because maybe you feel unworthy or resistant to that guidance, that softness. But either way, it's you kind of standing in the way of your own journey. But if you And again, it'll be because of those reasons, avoiding choices out of fear of losing love or security or something, or overly identifying with the pain. But if you're resisting, the positivity that you're longing for, then you're just making yourself the sacrificial lamb. So, how you can sort of help yourself is take small, non-threatening steps. Don't be overwhelmed with the all or nothing thinking. Everything's got to work this way. Everything has to be, has to go in my favor. What if it doesn't? So what? Doesn't mean it's just another step that you have to take in a different. It moves into something more manageable or gives you a better option. And I think the biggest thing here is that you don't feel safe to choose, or you don't feel worthy to receive, or something like that. But either way, you have a lot of warm energy around you. And again, this is kind of mental paralysis that you're kind of working through. But again, you're still working through it, and that's very good. So this can be self-denial as well, but it's self-denial of abundance or having good things come to you, but blocking it a little bit here is what I'm saying. But you are still working through it. So like it's just around the corner overall. So I feel like with the Eight of Wands, this is you you're moving forward with things quickly. So you're taking immediate action, you're through your thoughts, you're moving through this pain a lot faster and than you were before, even though it's still steady progress. But again, let go. Messages, let go of the guilt, let go of the shame, the sadness about the past, and that's allow yourself to forgive anything that you perceive as a failure, because the whole point of life is to find a way to live, not to live in a box. There's a lot of things out there in the world to see, and if you don't know what you're good at, you won't know until you actually put your hands on and try something, want to or not, trying and engaging yourself in new things help you to sort of balance out what you do want, what you don't want. But either way, I feel like you're being really strategic in how you're dealing with things. You are taking some quick actions here. And I feel like you are releasing regret and shifting your focus from that Five of Cups sadness, because that's what the five is a shift of the emotions. And again, it seems to be around the past and around giving and receiving. Maybe you felt like you deserved something and the receiving was difficult. But it's more, again, reframe. I still have opportunities to do better. Reframe. That's going to be the big message here, because you do have you have a lot of guidance. And I mean, I feel like, because the main cards out again, like I said, were big major arcana: Lovers, Hangman. Well, actually, the Hangman was more of a card of suspension that had to do with the past, feeling stuck where you weren't able to move forward. But again, your major arcana were the Lovers and, what was it, the Hierophant, Star card. So that's most of what you're doing right now is healing. But I feel like you're beating through a good section of this anyway. Might be feeling a little bit lonely or abandoned still, and some emotional hardship, like I said, because you are still processing a lot. But overall, I just say keep walking, keep walking towards something that's more meaningful, because I feel like that emotional lack is where you're focusing too much in one area and not to the detriment of other areas. So, yeah, anyway, that's what I would have as your reading for the month of July. And maybe we can do of the angel guides. I might read the book on this one. I don't use it an awful lot. Okay, what is the best advice for Cancer in the month of July? Month of July, what is the best advice, or what is the major energy that's coming out? Major energy that's coming out. Trust the universe. Strange, that was what I was thinking it was going to be. Yes. So I don't know what the yes is to, but if you have a query about that, yes is your, and yes to your manifestations. Wow. Okay, so, and at the bottom of the deck was surrender and expect miracles. So I'm just going to kind of tie those together. Okay, so again, this is the Angel Guide Oracle book by Kyle Gray. And the cards: trust the universe, yes, manifestation, surrender, and expect miracles. Bottom of the deck. So we'll check into our book here. All right, so it is that you are being asked to release the control and place your faith in a little bit of the divine flow. Even if you can't see the outcome, you can trust that things are kind of being dealt toward your highest good. And yes, sorry, I took that out of order. Yes is relating to, having clear, direct communication with whatever it is that you're planning. You're aligned with it, and there is something that is going to allow you to proceed confidently. And we also have the card of manifestation. So this is where your prayer, visualization, something is taking form, and it's going to be aligned and in your vibration very soon, which is very positive. What you need to do is remember to let go of the attachment to how it will come to you. The surrender is letting it come to you and flow in a way that is not you overthinking. It's not you worrying about it. It's not you, trying to block the flow of the miracle. And that's why the expect miracles is at the bottom of the deck. Something extraordinary is coming to you. And yes, you can combine that with the other cards. Trust, yes, accept, align manifestation, and surrender. So overall, you can trust the universe's plan. You are in the right energy. Keep moving forward, guys. That's what I have for you.